Okay. Thanks, Alexandra. Yep. So to be honest, my presentation this morning, well, just to tell you, to be intentional and tell you, I'm really speaking to scientists for this. So just so you know, the two in here. All right. So yeah, culturally inclusive planetary engagement. So it's my title. It's the title of the workshops that I'm going to describe here. But it's also a different way of thinking about doing public outreach or public engagement, whatever the phrase is you want to use. The act of being in front of the general public, talking about your science or the science of NASA or the engineering and exploration of NASA. It's a different way of approaching how this is done. Okay, great. And if I'd given this presentation a year ago, it would be very different. But it's different because of all the people that are involved in these. So it's the educators like myself, scientists like Alexandra, our professional evaluators, our DEIA consultants that we work with, and all of our past workshop participants. The evaluation data we collect from them during and after the workshop has informed what we do now, which looks very different from our first one, and looks very different from what our last one will be. Hey, welcome. Okay, so what is culturally inclusive planetary engagement? Well, they are professional development workshops. They are specifically for planetary science subject matter experts. However, we also bring in local informal educators. So there are folks that are educators but do not sit in a classroom. So in a museum, Boys and Girls Club, public library, YMCA, whatever. You could think of a million different examples. And what we do at the very beginning of the workshop, within the first 15 minutes, is we do an activity, a hands-on activity that pairs a scientist with an educator. So we intentionally pair folks together to then work together through the rest of the workshop, and then hopefully beyond the workshop. Okay, so what we are doing is taking deliberate steps. So, Planetary Resources and Content Heroes. That's the name of our program. Content heroes are the scientists. Resources are things like hands-on activities, videos, things that you can use to work with audiences. So we're taking deliberate steps to help the community become better at engaging with diverse audiences, specifically engaging Black and Latinx audiences. And I'll talk about why that is. Is there a delay or? Oh, so it's a bit of a delay. Okay, that's right. Okay. So if you're coming to a workshop as a subject matter expert, what are you bringing? Well, you're bringing your subject matter expertise. That it will come up, right? But it's not the focus of what we do. We thought it would be a focus of what we do. That is slowly evolved out. But it will come up. You can bring your own outreach experiences. If you have it, if you've done outreach, you have that experience. Bring it and talk about it. But also become willing to learn and listen. Listening is very important. We are getting this down to the point where, as facilitators, we rarely talk. It's participants really kind of having the conversation. Informal educators come with the knowledge of the communities they serve. They come with engagement experience and expertise of engaging with that community, particularly. And they also come willing to listen and to share their experience and expertise and learn as well and reflect. Reflect is huge. Time to think about everything we're discussing. Okay, so why Black and Latinx audiences? Well, it's because of this data right here. Currently, within planetary science and STEM in general, Black and Latinx are very much underrepresented. It has gotten better over the past decade for Hispanic Latinx audiences, but they're still behind in numbers wise. And okay, so what to that? Well, the US population is continuing to diversify. And if you look at that data on the right, if we don't continue and intentionally continue to diversify the planetary science field, there may not be as many people left in the field to continue what's being done today. If you care, just saying, if that matters to you beyond your career timeline. So we're approaching this through the lens of public engagement. I mean, there's lots of ways you can approach this, lots of different audiences you can come at this with, early career folks on, postdoc, what have you. We're coming at this through public engagement and starting very early on, interacting with people. Because more equitable and inclusive interactions between scientists and diverse communities can inspire future STEM professionals. That's a picture of an evaluation question we ask at our events. So it's great if they learn something. That's cool. They learn something. Do they have fun? Okay, great. But what's more important for what we do is we want to know, did they feel welcome? Did they feel welcome at that event? Did they feel like they were included? And so that's a question. That's a big sticky note we have posted and ask kids to respond to with stickers when they walk out. All right, so we do this through 2-day workshops. We're pushing this through 2-day workshops. That's a slow-mo video, the amazing technology now of one of the activities our participants do. So we have 2 days, 8 to 5. So long days, but we give you breaks. Don't worry. And then there's a public event it's typically on the following day, on the 3rd day. During the workshop, we have discussions and we do various hands-on activities that you can then be used in outreach settings. The 3 main topics are building equitable partnerships with diverse communities. And this takes work. So this is how this is different than what we're typically used to doing in outreach, where you're like, hey, here I am. Go to our speakers bureau, fill out a form. We'll come out and talk to you if you want to. This is tough. This is where you actually talk to you approach a library, if you will. Say, hey, this is what I do. Can I help you? Is there anything I can help you do with your programming? And then you stay with them. It's not one and done. You may talk with them for months before you actually get in there and do an event or do something with them. There's a lot of trust building involved. And it's tough, but it's what's necessary. Recognizing and addressing biases. Everybody's got them. And that's okay. They're not always bad, right? I think people think of biases as a bad thing, which it can be. It depends on recognizing what you have and what you do with them. I could tell you up here and spend all day talking about the biases I have against East Coast people. Just kidding, but not really. And then approaching public engagement through an asset-based approach. So instead of, for example, if you're going to go in and sit at a table for a couple of hours and have a meteorite with you, instead of worrying about, okay, what are these kids not going to know? What have they not experienced? So I make sure I don't talk about that, or make sure I give enough background before I get into the meat of it. It's not that. It's just when they approach the table, start talking to them. Find out what their interests are. Maybe you don't even talk about the meteorite sitting there. Seriously? Wow. Okay. Maybe you don't even talk about the meteorite sitting there. Maybe they just start asking you questions about things and you answer them as best you can. Okay. So instead of worrying about what they don't know, find out what they do know. Find out where they're coming from. But also talking to the community leader or director of the library or whatever beforehand, you can start getting a feel for that. Oh, sorry. Did that video mess it up? Okay, so the punchline is this is a different way of thinking about outreach and approaching outreach and doing it. It's more work, but it's well worth it. we've had 4 or 5 workshops so far, including this year and last year. We'll have 6 more next year, 3 in 2025. All the workshops are building on the previous one. Our next one is in Miami next month. Then we have one in New York in September, and then one in Puerto Rico in November. I'll just wrap it up there.